Hey, my friends, it's your girl Tisha, popping by with yet another Tisha-ism. Ooh, this is a good one. I'm gonna try to unpack it a little bit, but sometimes you just hear something and you just gotta hold it for a minute. And it was from Dr. Anita Phillips from the book The Garden Within. And she says, a boundary without a consequence is not a boundary, it's a preference. Why is that so profound? It's so profound for me because I grew up in a boundaryless environment. I didn't even know what a boundary was until recently. And even when I figured out what it was, I didn't know how to communicate it. And bigger than that, I had no idea how to enforce it. So I'm sitting around in my preferences. I would prefer this, I would prefer that. And then what would happen is because I didn't know how to set a boundary and I didn't know how to communicate a boundary and I didn't know how to enforce a boundary, I was always mad at other people for doing me wrong because I felt like you should know how to treat me. No, ma'am, that was me needing to know how to set a boundary. And I didn't. So we'll even take it a step further, but we ain't gonna go too far in this conversation. But there are times when you have someone in your presence and there has been a disagreement that maybe hasn't been communicated, right? And so that other person consistently wants to tell the story from their perspective, knowing that potentially it will hurt you. And so we think, well, I'll just be the bigger person. I don't really want to rock the boat in that situation. I'll just go along to get along. But guess what you're doing when you do that? You are essentially saying to the other person, your comfort is more important than mine. So I'll just sit here and I'll just hold this secret and I'll just stew on it while you just stepping on my toes, stepping over my boundaries, re-injuring me over and over and over again because I ain't have no boundaries. I didn't know how to communicate a boundary, and I certainly did not know how to I didn't know how to enforce a consequence around a boundary. We're gonna have a whole nother conversation about that later. Here's what I think. I think we need to go ahead, and I say we, me, to go ahead and start a book club around this book because it has probably been one of the most impactful books. I ain't done yet. I'm almost finished. Sometimes when I read the passages in the book, I just kind of have to stop, take a deep breath, sit on it for a second, digest what is being said. But today, it was a boundary, right? And I have a friend in my life who has been absolutely magnificent in setting boundaries. Hard boundaries, sets them just as loving as she can set them, but she holds them boundaries. And guess what? She got some really good relationships in her life. And for me, because I didn't know how to set a boundary, let's back up. Because I didn't know what a boundary was, I didn't know how to set a boundary, I didn't know how to communicate a boundary, I didn't know how to enforce a boundary, I just leave. I had a whole bunch of relationships that I just didn't work through because I didn't have the skill set to communicate something hard. Because remember, I didn't grow up in a space where boundaries were articulated, that they were even a thing, right? And so growing up as an adult, even as an adult now, I just didn't know how to set it. And that was no longer serving me, right? And so you get to a point where you just really want to be healthy and you say, I got to learn this skill set because I don't want to keep on doing the same thing I've always been doing. With that being said, boundaries save relationships. But bigger than that, setting a boundary without enforcing a consequence is not a boundary, it's a preference. Weigh in. Talk to me about what you think about boundaries. How do you protect yourself? How do you enforce your boundaries? Lovingly. How do you enforce your boundaries and stay in relationships? How do you communicate those hard things and say, nah, that ain't gonna work for me, but I love you, but that ain't gonna work? Like, share, and comment. Tell me how you do it, my friends. This is your girl Tisha, popping by with yet another Tisha-ism. Talk to you soon, my friends. Have a great day.